welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. We're going to be showing a lot of code at the beginning on this screen. So if you're in the back, you may want to move forward so you can see that a little better. So here's the agenda for the next 2 hours. We're going to start with a short presentation about the things that you're going to then build hands-on, the technologies. And that's just to give you an overview, help you kind of understand all the pieces, because there's a lot of moving pieces. And we'll explain things as we go. And then, after we do that 25-minute presentation, then we're going to set you loose onto a hands-on lab. For that, you just need your laptop and a browser and access to the Wi-Fi, which is up on the walls there. Everything else is going to be provided for you in a cloud environment. So we've got AWS accounts provisioned for you that will give you access to the Bedrock service, which we'll talk about and all that. So, so we're going to get hands-on. That's in about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Anything else logistically?
I have questions. How many of you have used Java? How many of you use Spring?
Okay. Great.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So you're going to learn some Spring today.
A little bit. A little bit. All right. Yeah, so we don't have anything up there. That's awkward.
Still the
Can we have our screen?
slide. There we go.
Hey.
This is our slide.
Wait,
That's
so
the
this-
only slide.
So this whole time they were talking, they didn't know I wasn't prepared? Like I quickly switched over to the slide thinking, oh, how embarrassing. They saw our notes
Yeah.
and they didn't.
Nope.
And I've just given away the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Hey, look, that's James Ward. I'm Josh Long. Hey, we're very online. You can find us on the internet. How many of you are on the internet? Yeah, it's not a great place to be these days. Wow, what a show. You know what? We just bumped into Josh freaking McKenty, one of my old colleagues at Pivotal from years ago, like legend, and then Patrick Dubois, another legend. Like this conference is just wow, you know, crazy.
We're the B team. It's okay.
So good. Yeah, amazing show. So that's James, I'm Josh, like I said. We're the B team. You can find us online. Code is going to be here, basically. Some of it. I mean, we're not going to be able to cover all the code that's in that Git repository, but you can find the bits there. And not a lot of you using Spring, huh? Okay.
You can do a little.
I think we should do a quick,
Like 5 minutes?
Can we do 5 minutes? Let's
5
try
minutes.
and do 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay. So let's talk. Let's establish some basics here, because I'm scared that we're going to dive right into it and we're going to make assumptions that we shouldn't make. What with our vantage point being a little different from yours if you haven't done Java and Spring before. So we're going to build an application here very quickly by going to my second favorite place on the internet. Obviously, my first favorite place is and has always been. He doesn't remember. Production, right? It's the best place on the internet, best place in the world, better than Disneyland, happiest place on earth. And obviously, start here. If you haven't been to production, start here, okay? And we're going to build an application, just a very simple application, start.spring.io. We're going to use, I'm just going to call this application because, again, I'm amazing with names. We're going to use Java 25 because that's the only correct version of Java to be using today, right? You see here, we have 2 radio boxes. These other radio boxes are from the distant past. We don't ever recommend that you use these. These are here just to know who makes terrible life decisions. You should never, ever select these versions of Java, right? So we're going to use Java 25. And I'm going to just add a very simple application here, GraalVM native image support. Maybe we'll build a web service here very quickly. And what we're going to do is we're just going to build a little simple Spring application, nothing to do with AI just yet, because I want you to understand that fundamentally there's this framework called Spring which underpins everything that we're looking at today. And Spring, in turn, gives you the ability to wire your objects up. Why would you need a framework to do that? Why can't you just create these objects yourself and wire them together manually? I mean, you could. But the benefit of having the framework do it is that it can give you a little bit of a sleight of hand, a little bit of indirection. You create a thing of type foo, you ask for a thing of type foo over here, in between somebody reworks that foo and gives you extra capabilities. That indirection, that ability to take what you've asked, what you've produced, add things to it and then give it to you and have it be polymorphically compatible, that's a superpower, right? And the reason that's interesting is because Java is an object-oriented language. Object-oriented languages, you think about a single responsibility principle, right? I've got an object, it does one thing, it's my business logic. Well, what if I want to add new capabilities? I want to add auditing, I want to add security, I want to add observability, all that kind of stuff. If I add these concerns, those are orthogonal to my business logic. So how would you model that in an object-oriented language? Maybe you'd create a subclass, And I guess if you have 3 different concerns, you'd create 3 different subclasses. And it gets very tedious, right? You end up with this deep hierarchy of sort of redundant code. And that code that you're going to write to handle those concerns, that gets re-stipulated on each new object that you create. So rather than do that, what we can do is we can introduce those behaviors, those decorative concerns, in a generic way using one of the 3 pillars of Spring, which is aspect-oriented programming. So aspect, can you see that back there in the galley? Okay.
That's a good size, right?
Aspect-oriented programming.
Okay.
We also have dependency injection, which is basically just using constructors, which is not a very big deal. And we have portable service abstraction. So we have this this idea that Spring provides you with abstractions that make working with a lower level infrastructure less painful. So these 3 tentpole pillars are part of the Spring triangle, we used to call that, right? And nowadays we also have this thing called Spring Boot. And Spring Boot takes it a step further and adds a new thing called auto configuration. So I suppose now it's more of the Spring Square, because you got 4 points there, right? Or Spring Rectangle, right? And so these 4 things allow you to solve a lot of different problems. But let's just see what I mean by that in action, right? So let's say I have let's just get rid of all this stuff here. I'm going to expand that out. And by the way, I mentioned I'm using Java 25, right? This is very important to make sure we understand. I went to start that Spring ago. I chose Java 25. I'm using Java 25. Java 25 is amazing. It allows me to do one of my all-time favorite tricks and accomplishments ever. So I'm going to open that up. Okay? I'm going to write some Java code in here, as I'm wont to do. Okay? I'm going to write that out, and then I'm going to run this. Okay? So here we go. There we go. I ran that. Now that's a script that I wrote. I didn't compile it. I didn't run Java C. I just ran Java, and I passed in the script code, right? The code that I wanted to run there. And so what I've done is I've run that, and a couple things to note. First of all, this script, there's no outer class, right? There's no containing type. In fact, the void main method is also just very trivial, very easy to understand. Void main, curly bracket, curly bracket. So it's very, very lightweight. There's no containing class. It is, like me, classless. Okay? And it's also a script, right? And so what this is it's a script that's been written in Java. And you know what that means? Think about this. Just enjoy this moment. For the first time in 30 plus years, we have a good JavaScript. Okay? This hasn't been done before. It hasn't been done before. There's no such thing as good JavaScript before this feature arrived in Java 25. Now this is JavaScript, okay? Totally different from the bad kind of JavaScript, which is JavaScript. Okay? JavaScript, 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 JavaScript. One's terrible, one's what we're looking at right now. You understand? So enjoy this moment. We have JavaScript finally arrived in the language. Now what we want to do is to wire our objects together. We just think about that. So why would I do that? Let's think about a very simple example. Here's a customer service, very trivial, simple toy example. And in order to do the work I need to do, I might have a database. I can inject that in the constructor, like so. Add a constructor, and that's just object-oriented programming. I'm saying I need a data source. I don't care if it's a Postgres or MySQL or whatever. I could describe the configuration for the application in a single class like this. I could say customer service and then define it like that. And here I have the benefit of having all the wiring for my application in a single place. So now if I want to change something, as I might, for example, when I'm using a test framework, I can refactor this single thing, and I don't have to change everything in the place where I'm using it. I don't care that this is a mock in one place and a Postgres in another. It's just a data source, right? And I can stipulate that this has a dependency on another thing by defining it as a parameter there. So now you can imagine somebody could go along, create an instance of this in public static void main, and then call the methods, and then pass one reference to the other, and arrive at a completely built program. But what I really want is the framework to do that for me, because as I say, I can use that framework to decorate or to add capabilities to my application. So I'm going to call this app configuration, and I'll use Spring Framework's at configuration annotation. Here we are. There's that. And now I can decorate these methods with at bean, okay? So at bean, and I've got 2 different bean definitions. These are methods that return instances of objects, and Spring will automatically run this configuration because it's decorated with that configuration. It'll say, oh, you created a data source, and this thing requires a data source. I'll take the return value of this method and pass it into this for me. So now I have a fully instantiated customer service, and I've written my code in such a way that the recipe for that creation is sort of easy to understand. Okay? So now, what about this customer service? I'm actually instantiating the customer service here manually, but you can do it by convention as well, right? You can tell Spring, hey, I want you to discover so-called stereotype annotations, like this. This is a marker annotation, and Spring will look at that and go, okay, this is a bean. It's got this marker annotation. It's got a dependency that's a data source. I happen to have a data source over here, and so it'll create the instance of this, kind of like I just did here explicitly, but it'll do so implicitly, okay? So I'm moving up. Now, of course, I want to be very clear about the logical role of this thing in the architecture, so I can use a stereotype annotation. This annotation is the same as at component in that it is annotated with at component, but it's a stereotype annotation, okay? So it tells Spring this thing plays the role of a service. You can use at component. In this case, it's logically not a big difference, but it's just more clear when you understand the logical nature of the thing. Now, okay, this is a service. I'm going to use a database. I could work with a low-level JDBC data source, but that's a terrible abstraction with which to work. So going back to our pillars here, we've got portable service abstractions that make working with data sources a lot nicer. So rather than using the low-level JDBC data source, I can use the Spring Framework JDBC client. I forgot to add that to the class path. So let me just add that here. JDBC, here we go, right? And I go back over here, now I've got the JDBC client on the class path, and the JDBC client is much easier to use. It's a fluid DSL, and I can use it to, I can say this.db.sql, select all from, you know, whatever, select all from customer, and I can pass in the parameters, and I can pass in a mapper to map the results back into an object that makes sense. And it's very, very object-oriented and very clean, and what I'll get is a list of customers here, right? That's exactly what I want. So much more high level, much more focused. That's the idea of a portable service abstraction. So in very quick order, we've used Spring to wire things up to provide dependency injection. We've looked at aspect-oriented, we haven't looked at that yet. We'll talk about that in a second. And we've also looked at portable service abstractions. Where would aspect-oriented programming come into play? Well, let's say I had a method in here that returned a new customer. Now what's a customer? I can create that here. Int ID string name, okay? And it can return a customer, string name, right? Well, if I wanted to implement that, that might be a thing that actually talks to a data store. And that data store, you know, I can do multiple writes at the same time. And if something goes wrong, I want to return and abort the whole write. I don't want to have an invalid state. So I can use transactions. Well, that's a concern, but it's not related to my business logic. What I want to do is create an entity in the database of type customer, but I want it to be transactional. So I can use, for example, @transactional. This is a concern that I'm decorating my service with. I'm adding it to the method, and Spring will envelop this method invocation in a transaction. If you throw an exception, it'll roll back the transaction. If you don't, it'll commit it, right? And so that's a nice high-level thing that I can express in a fluid way without affecting the signature and the shape of my object. So now I've got portable service abstractions, aspect-oriented programming, and dependency injection. And then finally, you know, I might want to have a web server. I might want to have that database connection automatically configured for me. So I could create that, like here, I went out of my way to create the data source manually. But that's a lot of stuff, and that's work that, you know, if I wanted to do a production-worthy data source with connection pools and all that, this would be very, very tedious. So I want some conventional, easy way to do that. Maybe I could just specify a password and a username like that, and I could specify the URL, and I'd get an actual, you know, with just a little bit of configuration, Spring has all it would need to do the job for me, so why couldn't it? And that's what Spring Boot gives you, is auto configuration. It will do that work for you. And the result is, now, when I write this code, I have a service, I've declared a dependency on a JDBC client, I've got declarative transaction management in there, and that's it, right? It just works. So I go back over here and restore it like that, make that a Spring Boot application, and you know, the concerns that I care about, who's going to set up my transaction management, who's going to set up the data source, all that stuff is just done for me. And the result is I write very little code. So if you understand these four pillars, these four corners of this Spring rectangle, then you can understand what we're going to look at in Spring AI. To wit, let's talk about that.
I'm exhausted already.
Me too. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. It's a framework, okay? It's a framework for doing frameworky kind of things, and it's in a nice language. It's very concise and very easy to use. So let's go back now and build our Spring AI application. Now, this is always where we have trouble, right? This is, as people who do demos, we're always struggling with, what do we talk about? What could be our sample domain, something that people could relate to? And obviously, I think some of you might know this famous Spring Pet Clinic sample application. This is a sample application that's been around in the Spring ecosystem for decades, literally decades. But don't be confused, though. This was updated as recently as last week, and it has to do with animals, dogs and cats and you know, cute little critters and all that. And I love animals. I mean, you love animals, right? We all love animals, right? And I love Oh, I love him so much. I just love all. I just love all. Almost all animals. Okay, almost all of them, except one. My dog was terrible. Not a good boy. Okay, we actually, it's not even true. We loved him. We just didn't like him. You know what I'm saying? He was not a good dog, but he was our dog, and we loved him, and we gave him a home, because all dogs, even terrible dogs, deserve loving homes. And so his name, by the way, was Peanut, right? Peanut was not a good boy, but he was our dog, right? And we kept him for three very simple reasons. The first of which is even terrible dogs deserve loving homes. That's a bedrock fact. See what I did there with the
bedrock,
the bedrock, the AI model. Yeah. Anyway, it'll arrive later. Anyway, there's that. And then and the second reason is ego. Okay, just going to be 100% honest with you. In my home, my partner and my daughter both speak 5 languages. I only 3. So if we didn't have that stupid dog, then I would be the stupidest in the house, and that will not stand. And it is with great regret that I say that he's no longer with us. So now I guess that means that I am. Yeah.
We're gonna need to adopt a new dog.
Yeah. And that's kind of why we're here, right? And then part 3, the third reason, is I'm just going to be 100% honest with you here, just being real. He is like so cute, right? I mean, just look at that dog. He was so cute. So cute. I know, very cute. A very cute dog, but evil. Okay, not a good dog. I mean, look at those blood-crazed eyes, right? He was an evil little dog, and so he, very cute but evil. And he reminds me of another dog about which I learned during the pandemic, named Prancer. Now, Prancer was a dog that whose owner was trying to find a new home for this poor doggo back in 2021, April 7th, 2021. And she described this dog. She says, "Okay, I've tried for the last several months to post this dog for adoption and make him sound palatable. The problem is he's just not. There's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dogs that look like gremlins. But I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I'm tired, and so is my family. Every day we live in the grips of the demonic Chihuahua hellscape he has created in our home." So I think about this dog a lot, right? This is borderline doggy slander. And yet, she continues. She says, "I was excited to see him come out of his shell and become a real dog. I'm convinced at this point that he's not a real dog, but more like a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child that now haunts our home." She continues, "We already addressed the men and children situation. If you have people over, he would have to be put away like he's a vacuum. I know finding someone who wants a Chucky doll in a dog's body is hard, but I have to try." And she signs off, warning, he's only 2 years old and will probably live to be 21 through pure spite. And to be fair, super cute. I would totally pet that dog. I would lose a finger, but I would pet that dog. That's a cute dog. And so I think about this dog and my dog a lot, right? They live rent-free in my head. And by the way, this dog actually did get adopted, right? So this dog went viral. Here's People magazine talking about how Prancer, the demonic Chihuahua, says new owner says he's helped her heal from past trauma. Yeah, super cute, right? And then here's USA Today, okay? Here's a demonic Chihuahua hellscape, meet Prancer, the puppy everyone wants after a brutally honest Facebook review. Here's BuzzFeed. We caught up with Prancer, the viral nightmare Chihuahua. We found a story of redemption. And of course, slow news day, I guess. New York Times, Prancer, the demonic Chihuahua. Come on. Prancer, the demonic Chihuahua, finds a home. So again, this dog went viral. Eventually, he did get adopted. But I want to build a thing so that other people can adopt terrible dogs, right? And so in order to undertake that journey, we have to make some decisions. We're going to use an AI because we want people to be able to go to our fictitious dog adoption shelter and interview the shelter for dogs in the shelter. Obviously, most people don't find their dogs by looking at the news, right? That would be, if your dog is so infamously terrible that he's in the news, you're doing something wrong, right? So instead, they're going to go to a shelter.
Yeah. So we're going to help people adopt dogs with AI. Great place to use AI. And the models that we're going to be using are on Amazon Bedrock. There's let's see, did you pull up the model page? No. On Bedrock, you can choose from 249 different models. We're going to be using the Amazon first-party ones, but there's the Anthropic Claude models, there's the DeepSeek models, there's the Open GPT OSS models, lots of different models to choose from. So that's our model side. That's what we're going to be using. That's what you're going to be using when we get into the hands-on piece. And then we're going to use Spring AI to provide the interface to the LLM for the user to go find the dog of their dreams.
Or nightmares.
Or nightmares.
Yeah. So, lots of different models here. You mentioned you got like JetBrains, you got the OpenAI ones, you've got all the great ones.
So many different ones to choose from.
Third-party and first-party ones, all here. So we're going to go back to our Spring Initializer, and we're going to build a new project, as always. Start that Spring.io. We're going to call this Assistant to help with assisting people to help find a dog of their dreams or nightmares. And the reason we're going to call it Assistant is because I'm amazing with names, okay? I'm great with names. I get that from my dad. My dad was amazing with names. When I was a small boy, we had a small white dog, and my father named him White Dog. Again, just really, really good with names, okay? So we're going to add that. We're going to add the web support. We're going to add Bedrock, right? Now, what are we adding here, mister?
So in our sample application, we're going to be doing RAG, which is going to use vector embeddings, and we need an embedding model on Bedrock in this case to do the embeddings. We'll talk about what that actually means and how it works in a little bit. But we need the Bedrock support for the embeddings, and then we need the Bedrock Converse support for the chat interface to an LLM. So 2 different libraries that we use for those 2 different features that we're going to add into the application.
Sounds good to me. We have a question about which database to use. I mean, it's 2025. What database would you use by default if you had no other choice?
I love Postgres.
I do too. Now, Postgres is a great choice, but I'm also going to need a vector store, right? And a vector store is logically a separate component, but they can be, a lot of existing data stores and data store infrastructure support vector store capabilities. So logically, I could go here and I could say, let me use a purpose-built vector store like Milvus or Pinecone, Weaviate, Qdrint, Chroma, all these different ones, TypeSense. But there's also a bunch of existing database infrastructure that can be used as a vector store. So for example, MongoDB, Gemfire, Elasticsearch, Couchbase, Apache Cassandra, Redis, and Oracle, and Postgres, MySQL, Neo4j, etc. So we're going to use Postgres as a vector store. There's a mod. It's basically just a plugin that you load into a stock standard Postgres. It gives you vector capabilities. So PG vector, we're going to use some chat memory here, JDBC, and I think we need the actuator. I think that's it.
Spring Data?
Yep, we need that. Thank you. Spring Data JDBC, and hit go. Okay.
So that's just our dependencies for the full application that we're going to build. You're going to also use, I think, many or all the same dependencies in the workshop. So we'll see how we use these in the next few minutes, and then get you hands-on.
Right. So first things first, let's specify some configuration here, which I have managed to conveniently not include here.
Sorry, should we be configuring this? Or?
No. Just pay attention and
we're giving you the background information that you're going to need, and then we're going to set you loose on the workshop so that hopefully when you get into the workshop, you know what all the pieces and code and everything is doing.
We're hoping
no
this is going to
quite yet.
Whoa, that's fun. Hopefully that endpoint wasn't powered by Cloudflare. Okay, so here's some configuration. What have we just done?
So there's a few things we did configure in here. The first one is our chat model. We're going to use the Nova Lite model. That's just a super lightweight, inexpensive, fast one. So, and then we're enabling that chat model. We're also specifying the embeddings model so that we can do the vectorization. And we're using the Bedrock Cohere model for that one. We have to specify the dimensions to align the dimensions from the language model to the PG vector store. We initialize the schema to store it in. And yeah, what else in there do you want to say?
Database. We have a SQL database running in the background here. It's Postgres. We're going to connect to it. You would normally not stipulate your username and password in a property file. You'd use cloud native like environment variables, that kind of thing. So export. There you go. You would do something like that. But for now, for our demo, we'll just keep them in the property file, okay? So
we got our config. So that was using that auto configuration stuff that Josh talked about. Just by setting those config properties, there's a bunch of functionality that gets added into this application that we're going to be building.
Okay.
So the first thing that we're going to do is set up just a basic controller, a web controller that's going to allow us to make a HTTP request to the controller and then make a call to the LLM. So call to a controller, call over to the LLM. to do that, we set up the chat client. The chat client is the chat interface in Spring AI to talk to an LLM.
I'm a big fan of the chat client. It was written by only the best people, okay? The actual best people worked on this code, and I trust them implicitly, okay? Really, really good code. Moving on. So anyway, here we go.
Okay, so the chat client, based on auto configuration that was in that properties, it's going to know how to connect to Bedrock. Josh has already set up his AWS credentials, and so that piece is already done. But then we've got the chat client. We use the builder to build it, and then we can use the chat client by calling the chat client and then .prompt, giving it a user prompt, and then calling it, content, and that's it. Yep. So now you can send your HTTP request to that web server, and when we do that, yay, that's a response from the LLM.
We got a dial tone, right?
We got a dial tone. A few lines of configuration, and all the configuration that you just saw, only like 2 of those lines in the configuration were to get to this point. We just threw all the configuration for everything that we're going to show you in. But 2 lines of configuration and like 6 lines of code, and we're talking to a LLM.
Yeah. And really the AI stuff is just these 4 lines of code, which I hit enter for, so it could have been 1 line and nobody would have complained. Okay. Now, we passed in the user question. That's the user prompt. That's the thing that each user will ask the model. Okay. Now, this is working. We've established a dial tone. It says, hey, Josh, nice to meet you. If there's anything you'd like to talk about or you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Great, we're connected. Let's just make sure everything is working, everything is happy. So let's just confirm, what's my name? And by the way, if it gets this wrong, it's going to get it wrong for 2 of us in the audience today, not just me. Okay, so it says, I'm sorry, but I can't tell your name as it's personal information that I don't have access to. Awkward, okay? We just met, and it's already forgotten me. Why does this always happen to me? I don't know, but I don't like it. What's happened here, fundamentally, this API is stateless, and we need to give it access to a transcript of everything that's been sent. So we're going to use the Spring AI concept of an advisor, which is like an interceptor that allows you to pre-process and post-process requests.
So the advisor, it allows us to, as Josh said, intercept the actual call to the LLM, and then this gives us a chance to then store the whole conversation in memory. And so we're going to use our database through JDBC, the Postgres database that we already configured and pulled in the libraries for, and then we're going to set up memory to that database. So this will allow us to, every time we call the LLM, push some portion of the past history into the LLM with every new question being asked. So you set up the memory advisor, you've set up the backend store to store the memory. I think we're using the windowed memory or something like that.
Yep.
So it's going to have a set number of messages that it's going to keep. By default, it keeps the user messages and the messages coming back from the LLM. Those are called like the assistant messages. So we keep all that in memory. And so the next time we ask a subsequent question, it's going to know, or it's going to not really know, it's going to send, again, the history. So you got your JDBC store set up. I think in properties, we told it to like automatically initialize the data source. So that's all good.
Yep. OK, should we try it?
Yeah, and then you added your advisor to the chat client?
Yep.
Great.
Yep. So let's connect to the data source just so we can see what's gone here. OK, hit apply, hit OK, refresh, database, public, tables, Spring AI, chat memory. Delete that from the last run. Goodbye. Actually, let's just delete everything except for that table. OK.
Don't delete your dogs.
Nope. Do not delete the dogs. We need them.
We need those dogs.
They are very important. Reload. OK, so we've got 1 table. I'm going to restart the program. It'll now initialize the Spring AI chat memory, which is now empty. Now we can ask it, OK, my name is Josh. Fine. Nice to meet you. And then what's my name? OK. Good. Hello, Josh. It's remembered me, right? So this is good. We've established the transcript, and that's being persisted here in the Spring AI chat memory. Now, it's good, but it's still unfocused, right? It's just basically a wide open like hole pointing straight to my Bedrock account, right? I want
my kids will do their homework with this chatbot, with our adoption service.
So we want to like give it a little bit of focus, right? This isn't as good as like a full-on agentic framework, but it's a bit of a focus. So we're going to give it a system prompt, okay? And I actually happen to have a pre-written system prompt, okay? So I shall go over here, desktop, misc, talk, system prompt. I'm just going to cat it and then, wait. No, I'm so sorry. Much better, okay? So we'll take that, put it into the clipboard, and here we go. Here's our system prompt, okay? And we shall configure that here, system. Now, this system prompt is as follows. You are an AI-powered assistant to help people adopt a dog from the adoption agency named Pooch Palace with locations in Antwerp, Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, Paris, Mumbai, New Delhi, Barcelona, San Francisco, and London. Did I say Antwerp? I meant...
that was like a month ago.
Yeah. We're totally different people now. Moving on. So we've given a system prompt. We've told it what we want to do. Let's see now if that changes its behavior when we ask it questions that it might or should or could maybe answer. Do you have any neurotic dogs? Now, remind you, we're trying to build a service to help people adopt dogs. Hi, Josh. We currently don't have any dogs listed as neurotic. However, we have a variety of different dogs with different temperaments and personalities. If you're interested, I can provide more details about the dogs at our various locations. Okay, it's acting like it's meant to be able to answer our question, but for whatever reason, it just can't yet. Okay, and that, I think we know why.
Yeah, it doesn't have any data, right? It doesn't know our dogs.
Exactly.
Let's introduce the AI to our dogs.
So I'm going to set up yet another advisor.
So for this one, this is where we're getting into RAG. And the general architecture that Josh is going to implement here in a few lines of code is an advisor that's going to be able to intercept the prompt, and then based on the prompt, do a similarity search with some data in our vector store. And then based on the results from that similarity search, put what could come back from that into the prompt that then we send to the LLM. So this is traditionally called the RAG pattern, and this just provides a way for us as the developer to inject data in. We'll get into tools later where the LLM makes a decision on when it needs data, but this is us deciding that we're going to put data into this prompt, essentially, that's going to go over to the LLM. So to set this up, you're creating your dog, so that's going to be the record that we store the dogs with on the application side. We're going to need to be able to pull our list of dogs out of our database. So you've set up the dog repository, and then what else do we need here? We need to inject, so back to dependency injection from the fundamentals of Spring, we're injecting an instance of that dog repository in. And notice that there was all we ever defined for that dog repository was just an interface, but Spring is going to create an implementation of that interface for us and give us that instance here when this assistant controller is constructed.
And notice that I'm just using random arbitrary strings here. I'm not giving it a particular schema. Don't need to. I'm also just passing in a singleton list. It's a list with one element in it. And if you have large bodies of text, you might tokenize it, you might split it, and Spring AI provides a whole hierarchy to support with that. But we're just going to use one right now because it's a small amount of text. One thing I noticed is that this is a document for dogs, so I shall call this document. Okay, and there we go. And finally, I've configured it to have this question answered.
Let me explain that one real quick, that part, because we need to get the vectorized forms of our dogs, because that's how we do the similarity search against them. And we need a language model to do that. So that's why we had to configure the Cohere, in our case, embedding model that actually runs on the cloud. It's an LLM, right? We give it a string, and it gives us back vectors. And so we need to get those vectors so that then we can match the user prompt against those vectors so that we can get to the dog that the user is going to ask about. And so Spring AI includes the RAG support, which allows us to call the embedding LLM and then store those embeddings into our vector database. And then did you add the advisor? So
yes,
the
sir.
advisor is going to intercept that request, go over to do the similarity search against our vector store, and then put the results into our prompt automatically for us.
Okay, and it says, yes, we do have a dog named Prancer who's described as neurotic. Great, so we find our buddy Prancer. We're in a good place, but obviously this is just a paragraph full of text. You may very well want that to be given back to you in a form that you can use in the rest of your system, right? So I can actually do some like ORM kind of thing for my dog, the responses from the model. So I'm going to take this type, rather than asking for the string response from the model, I'll ask for a strongly typed representation of that, structured output mapping. And I'll ask the same question again, and this time I get strongly typed JSON back, right? So this is a lot nicer. It's a strongly typed integer, I can use that to do correlation and all that. Now, in my case, I actually want the string response, but I wanted you to know that the other thing was possible. Now, what would I do next?
Okay, so we got the data coming in, and that's all good. We got the RAG set up. The next part is going to be able to actually schedule an adoption with this, with the adoption service to be able to get Prancer and pick them up, right?
Yeah. Okay. So look, I'm going to build a service here called Dog Adoption Scheduler, and it's just going to be a service. And it's going to have a method here that'll help give a point in time in the future where we can come by the shop and pick up the dog. Okay, so I'm going to say var I equals instant.now, and I'll just hard code a date 3 days hence, right? So
we're not actually hooked up to a scheduling system,
right.
So we're just like faking the scheduling system. And then what we need to do is take the schedule method and tell the LLM about the schedule method so that when a user asks about doing scheduling, it can then direct our agent, our AI agent, to then call the schedule method. And so to do that, all we have to do is add a @tool annotation. We have to make sure we specify a description that's in natural language because that's what's going to indicate to the LLM when it needs to actually call that tool. So you've added the description, we've annotated it with that tool. We can also annotate the parameters so that it knows how to fill in the actual parameters to call in that tool. And that's, I think, all we need for our tool on the definition side. And then we do need to wire it into our chat client so that our chat client then knows about the tool. So the tool definitions, they go into the prompt that we send to the LLM so that the LLM then knows, here's the options that I have available. If it decides that what the user is asking for can be accomplished with a tool call, then it responds and says, all right, call this tool. We call that tool in on the agent side, and then we send the results of that tool call back to the LLM in a subsequent call. Okay. So all that gets handled with when Josh added the with tools.
Found Prancer at Pooch Palace, great. And now,
so now let's adopt Prancer.
okay. Okay, November 21st.
So you said it for, 3 days from now. So great, that's it. So it called our tool. We've kind of validated there that sure enough, we made that request and it did all the LLM calls and the tool calls and created the scheduling, called the schedule system tool, and then responded back to us.
So now what if I wanted to repurpose this from other, what if I wanted to repurpose that business logic from other AI integrations, right? I'd use
Yeah, so MCP you've probably heard of. This is a technology to take that tool that we've done there and put it out on an external system. And so we can create an MCP server for that tool. So instead of having it run in the same process as the agent, we can have it external. Nice thing about MCP is it's not just for the tools that we want to build and integrate with. It can be for all sorts of other providers that have provided their MCP servers, or tons of open source and off-the-shelf MCP servers that we can also integrate with our chat client. So it creates this standard protocol to do the tool calls that we just saw there. So Josh has just taken the tool that we defined in the agent, pulled it out into a separate project so we can run it as a essentially remote server, and you're running it on a different port 8081. Mm-hmm. So now you've got your MCP server for that scheduling tool up and running. We did replace the annotations with ones that are specific to an MCP server. So there's MCP tool and MCP arg. Those add additional parameters beyond just the @tool that are specific to MCP, because there's some things that make sense in a remote MCP server that don't make sense in a local server.
And if I use the MCP inspector, you can see there's a tool called schedule. It's got a dog ID and a dog name.
Great.
So now we can definitely consume and connect to that MCP service, but I want to connect to it from our Spring AI client. Going back over here now, we're going to refactor this code to instead point to that remote MCP service.
Let's do take that out.
MCP
And then we're going to
sync MCP, nope, I have to add.
Did we add the MCP client?
Let's just check.
Yeah.
Nope. Add the starter. Come on,
So there's a dependency in Spring AI for MCP servers and one for MCP clients. We just added the MCP client one, and now we can use that dependency injection to inject into here a MCP toolback provider, the sync MCP and
okay.
One of these.
This one.
There it is.
That's got to be it.
Yeah.
Feels a little short. Is that the right one? Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Okay, I'm going to configure that here as a callback. No. What's the thing we're looking for here? Can you
Yeah.
take a look at your thing here quickly?
I do have the code.
This is new in 1.1, by the by.
Yeah, 1.1 of Spring AI just came out, and so we're still getting used to the changes in it.
Well, worst case, I can do MCP client.
Oh, you can. Did you do the config yet?
What do you mean?
The config to connect to the service and events.
You mean the property? The
Yeah,
JSON?
the
No, I can
property.
do that right now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, do the property while I look up the.
Okay.
The
So
right
MCP
class.
client SSE connections scheduler.url equals HTTP localhost 8081 SSE, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and then there's your class.
That's
Sync MCP tool callback provider.
Rolls right off the tongue. How could I have forgotten? Sync MCP
Tool callback.
callback provider.
Why isn't it popping up? Oh, there it goes. Okay.
So easy.
So easy.
Okay. Put that in there. Put that there. And then reload. Okay. Now, we're going to try the same query, but bear in mind, we've got the agent on the left, we've got the MCP service on the right, and it's going to answer queries about the scheduling, and the thing on the left is going to answer questions about dogs, okay? Let's now try this here. Oh yeah, sorry man, here.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. So here we go, we're going to try this again. Okay, let me delete the, one thing you should be aware of is these models can sometimes, they can
They like
cheat.
to cheat if they've got memory of something already.
Yep. So, okay, we have Prancer, great. When can I pick up Prancer from the New York City Pooch Palace location? It says 11:21, and you can see that it called the MCP service over here.
Great.
And it invoked that. So the AI model has agency. It has the ability to make decisions based on the query that the user sent to it. It says, I've got this tool available to me to answer this question that I'm not otherwise prepared to answer, which is, when can I schedule a pickup from a Pooch Palace location? And it did that on its own by calling our tools. We also gave it access to our data. This is one of the key wins, one of the key opportunities we have here, which is most of the data in your enterprise and the organization is guarded by programs written on the JVM and in Spring. If you can give access to that to your AI models, you can build amazing things without having to rebuild all that stuff just to be able to add these AI integrations, right? So I think with that, we'll let you loose. You should be able to see some of this.
So I'm going to give you some instructions on the actual hands-on part now. So I'll switch over to my computer. But everything that you just saw, you're going to do just in a different context. So the code's going to be about a unicorn store, and we're going to help you, make sure you get all that up and running and working on your machine. So give me one sec to switch over. While I'm switching over my laptop, any questions about Spring and Spring AI? Anything that you've seen there? Did we make things more confusing?
Yeah.
And Drew has a mic if you have
Happy to
anything.
answer any questions.
Anything? Okay. All right. Almost ready.
What I'm hoping is that some of you have come from the Java community and you're sort of familiar with Spring Boot and all that. But I'm also really hoping that some of you are coming from a different ecosystem and you're rightly feeling a little sort of discombobulated because you haven't seen this stuff before. Happy to answer questions. Hopefully it was clear, but it is a new thing. I get it,
I have a pair of socks if anybody has a question. Question for socks.
Somebody told us the best story about this.
What?
I guess somebody was, not these particular socks, but I guess somebody was like allergic to metal or something.
Oh.
And so what happened? Oh, some engagement. They got engaged.
No.
Were you there when we heard?
Don't know what you're talking about.
We gave away some of these socks at one of the recent shows we were doing, and somebody came up to us and said that their partner was allergic to metal. So they forewent an engagement ring and had
that's right.
engagement
socks. And they were AWS socks, right?
I don't know about that, but that'd be very, very great,
Okay, no questions.
I think.
Well then let's get started on the workshop.
Yep, happy to answer questions.
Here's what you need to do. You need to point your browser to that URL, s12d.com/spring-ai-native-conf. And then I'm going to show you the first few steps, but then all of the material for the workshop is in there, and I'll show you how that works. So get that URL in there. Give you another minute to do that.
And how these instances, we've only got a limited amount of time together here, okay?
I put 48 hours on the clock, starting at, I don't know, noon or something.
So even if like even if you don't finish the workshop in the next hour or whatever it is we've got left today, you've still got another 36 hours or so.
You can just, keep rolling. The only request that I make is don't mine Bitcoin or put any personal information on these instances, then I get in trouble. Okay, so when you go to that URL, you should see this screen. You can choose any of those 3 options if you're an Amazon employee. I guess that's the only time you can use that 3rd option. But I'm going to use the easy option, which is email a one-time password. So you need access to your email. And I have access to my email.
Imagine.
First I need to put in my actual email, which feel free to email me if you have questions.
Oh, yeah.
James@jamesward.com.
Or josh@joshlang.com.
And then let me get my verification code. So obviously this is your email and your verification code.
Yeah, don't use his.
So once you've done that process and got signed in, then you'll see that there is some terms and conditions that, I don't know. You'll have to read those on your own. I agree to them. And then join the event. Okay, so then once we're in, this is the actual workshop, and all the content for the workshop is right in here. And so there's a few things that I want to point out. First is that all of the workshop content is in this menu up here on the left, which is a little hard to see at my enlarged font here. But the first page that we get to is this top left button here. And there's one important thing on this page. So before you navigate away from this page, down at the bottom of it, this is a VS Code web environment that's in this AWS account that I've created for you. And we want to open that up because all of the work that we'll do with code is going to happen in that VS Code environment. So I'm opening that URL. I need to copy my IDE password and put that in. And then this will launch my code environment that I'm going to do all the rest of the stuff with. We've got the terminal. So you can do your terminal. You can write code, all that kind of stuff in there. Then the actual workshop starts at this building Java AI agents with Spring AI. And this is really just an overview of all the content and the architecture, and it's all the stuff you just saw in Josh and I's presentation. It's got the RAG, it's got the chat memory, it's got the MCP stuff, and then there's workshop sections that you'll go through. So first you'll do some setup, then you'll create the application, do the chat client, create the REST controller, create a UI. The one that this one actually has a nice chat UI, unlike Josh's curl or HTTP,
right.
Whatever, no UI there. So there's all these different sections that you'll go to. When you get to deploying on AWS, things start to get more advanced, and then observability gets significantly more advanced. So these, as Josh said, these accounts are available for 48 hours, so you can get as far as you want through these.
One day, 18 hours left.
That's okay. One day, 18 hours left. So that's how much time you have left with this account. And then I will point out one thing in here is that we added for just recently this Embable section to the workshop. And this is an interesting technology that's built on top of Spring AI. And actually, Alex here works on Embable. So if you have questions about Embable, he's the expert in the house. So Embable is this another layer on top of Spring AI. So you saw like the chat client and the RAG and the memory and all that kind of stuff. But what about orchestration of agents? How do you build kind of larger, more complex agents on top of Spring AI? And Embable is created by Rod Johnson, who actually created Spring Framework. So he's pretty knowledgeable in that area. He's created this agentic framework called Embable. So there's a whole section of the workshop on doing the Embable piece and the agent orchestration.
Bonus material.
Bonus material.
Do we still have the deployment stuff in there?
Yeah, I mean everything's in there. So we got deploy to AWS. You can do it with EKS, ECS, Lambda. We're going to get Agent Core, new service in there as well, but.
Do we still have the issue with the routing? They have to do the memory?
No, I got it fixed.
Oh, okay.
Look at that. Look at that. Local memory, then
Lovely.
external memory. Yeah, we did this workshop yesterday, and we encountered a couple bugs, just like 2.
Yeah, just like 2.
2. And so we fixed those bugs. So
we did that in San Francisco, so that was a different time, a different place, a different space. We're different people now.
Okay.
Can't stand in the same river twice, you know?
So is that making sense? Let me pull up that URL again. Is that making sense for the workshop? I'm sure you all work at different paces, so you can go. We're here till 5:35.
On the dot.
On the dot. We have to head out right at 5:35 to the New Jersey Java user group tonight. But we're here. If you have questions, if you have problems, if things don't make sense, let us know. We're here to help make sure that you can get all your Spring AI stuff all built.
And if you want to have like a longer version of this discussion, you can join us tonight in New Jersey, or tomorrow at the New York Java SIG here in town, or we're doing a 25-minute talk here at the show.
Well,
tomorrow.
Don't come to our talk tomorrow
Yeah.
here because it's the same one you just saw.
You just saw it. You're good.
Go to something else.
Skip our talk tomorrow.
Go to something else tomorrow. Don't come to ours. Okay. You'll be disappointed. Okay. So any problems so far? People making progress? Working? Okay. Okay. We're here. Raise your hand, grab us if you have questions or problems.
Yeah, feel free to like holler because we can barely see you because we got spotlights burning into our eyeballs.
Just yell Prancer, and we're there.
Yeah, Prancer. No. Wait, is this yours? That's yours. This is mine.
Oh, and there's some incentives. First person that gets the chat client working, just dial tone, gets a pair of socks. So, as soon as you get it working, claim your socks. First person. Maybe we'll throw in some other spiffs along the way too. Good questions. Those get socks. But let's see, how many socks do I have? 4, 5 socks, 5 pairs.
Hey, everybody. You did it. You survived. What do you think?
You made it.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Did y'all learn something? You get through the whole entire thing. Kubernetes, observability, and Babel, all the things. That's like an all-day workshop.
It is.
Yeah.
And we know that because we just did it as an all-day workshop yesterday.
Yeah.